What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. This is exciting seeing that God of War Ragnarok is coming to PC, not because I'm excited to play it. I already played it on the PS5, but it's exciting to see that my predictions of the gaming industry is pretty much materializing. Now, some might say, well, everybody saw this coming. Well, not my comment section, because there were a lot of people who kept saying that this was not going to be a thing and had been saying it since I said that Spider-Man needed to come to PC back in 2018. But thankfully, those videos continue to provide fine wine in terms of the way they are. Not because I'm some kind of, savant. I simply just looked at where the numbers were going and I was like, oh, wow, if a business is paying attention, they're going to go the exact same route. And obviously, they're following the exact same route. Another really interesting thing is you don't need PS5 level hardware to actually play these PlayStation games, which is very interesting, seeing that the big marketing and big push for the PS5 and also the Series X and S, where there's, you can crank out these games and all of this stuff, when in reality, when they make the PC version, they actually make a scaled version in terms of settings and textures and all of that can run on more hardware so that they have more in terms of sales. I think they've been selling a bill of goods to those of us who've been paying for consoles, something that we really need to consider after having looked at this particular sheet. So let's go ahead and check out the graphics settings, minimum recommended high performance and ultra, and you'll see that you can play this game at 1080p 30 FPS on average low settings using a GTX 1060, which is a $50 or $60 GPU. If you actually go and look on eBay, don't pay more than $50 for this GPU. It's very old. The 6 gig version, a working unit, it should cost you only $50, and that's me being nice and fair. So you can also use an i5 4670K. Let's look at an i5 4670K in terms of the cost and the price of that CPU, and we can probably get that CPU for, it says anywhere from $14 to $115. So maybe you can get it for like $50. So I guess $50 in terms of your CPU and $50 in terms of your GPU, it should be able to play this game at 30 FPS. And they're actually putting a little caveat that there is no upscaling being employed. It's all native resolution. Recommended settings, they're asking for a 2060 Super or an RX 5700. Or you can use an i5 8600 in terms of your CPU, or the option of a Ryzen 5 3600. These are also really cheap components. Now, the Ryzen 5 3600 is not, it's old, but it's not, in my opinion, as cheap as a 4670. However, you can buy the Ryzen 5 5500, which will be better just by classification. And that is an $80 to $90 GPU on any given day. In fact, if you wanted to look at that GPU, it's an enigma. Ryzen 5 5500, and let's see, price. And we can basically see that, $80 on Amazon, $87 on Amazon. If you get it with the motherboard for $170, eBay, somebody wants to sell it for $85. If it's brand new, buy it. If not, get out of here. Mercari, what are they selling? They're selling the box and the cooler, no processor. So this is basically a $100 CPU, and you're able to go ahead and, leverage the game. If you have a 2060 style, GPU, you can leverage the game at 1080 60. Now, the 2060, you can pretty much match a lot of its capability using a 1080 Ti, which is going to be less expensive, or, whatever you can get your hands on, and you should be able to play this game at 1080 60. High, you're looking at 3070 or the RX 6800. This is a $380 GPU, I think, with the CPU i7 7700K or the Ryzen 7 2700X. The 7700K is kind of an old CPU. I actually do have this CPU long time ago. I think I paid about $100 for it at the time, but it's very interesting to see that this CPU is able to get you high settings. Very interesting, because okay, let's keep going. I don't know. Let me not say anything just yet. And then for performance, you're looking at a 3080 Ti, 6900 XT, 4K 60, 7700K. So this game seems to be very GPU hungry, because at the 4K Ultra setting, we're still at the Ryzen 7 3700X, which is very interesting. I would think we'll be looking at the 5800X 3D. So this game has optimization bleeding out its nose if it actually performs in the way that, these hardware requirements are actually, saying it will. So I think the big question to me, and has always been one that I've asked, is so what has always been the, this whole push to get these new generation consoles, if the developers can basically find themselves, a good middle ground to be able to use, what I think is lower level hardware to be able to run a lot of these games. I think that we were basically sold, or in a sense, oversold hardware on the console side. And even the developers basically got this new cog in their wheel. And for the most part, a lot of what this console generation has basically done is just to distract from a lot of the challenges that console has been facing, which is basically just allowing for a streamlined way for players to have accessibility to games. And also the value proposition that most of these console manufacturers have not necessarily been given to their audience members. So ladies and gentlemen, as a PlayStation 5 Pro is on the horizon, if you're a PlayStation 5 player or maybe you want to play the new Xbox, I highly consider that you maybe continue to rethink where you want to spend your $500 or maybe $600, in this regard. Because trust me, you can play all these PlayStation games with low range hardware if you don't mind 30 FPS. And if you want 60 FPS, you can play it with also low range hardware, because this is just interesting to see that these components are so cheap that you can buy yourself something that is close to them. There are different alternatives. I know maybe some people might see the PC requirement and think, well, I can't afford a 3070. You don't have to buy a 3070. You don't even have to buy a 6800. You can go to the 50 series in terms of AMD, or you can go all the way back to GTX and get something that would still run you, this game at 60 FPS. The 1080 Ti continues to be a boss. I mean, the 1080 Ti is a strong GPU, and if you have a very good CPU to pair it up with that GPU, man, you will get the best out of that 1080 Ti. So let's go ahead and look and see how things basically play out, in terms of when the game comes out, when we actually do some testing. I think that's probably going to unveil and, in my opinion, confirm some of my suspicions. I don't want to say too much on this video, but let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks so much for watching. God of War Ragnarok PC, one more to the list. September 19, 2024. Peace out.